Hello, my name is Diane, and I'm an admissions representative with KState University online. I want to start by thanking everyone for joining us tonight to learn more about our personal financial planning graduate programs. I'm joined by the department head, Dr. Martin C., and academic advisor, Jill Parker. Dr. Martin and Jill are going to spend roughly the next 30 minutes giving us a presentation about this program, and we'll spend the last 10 to 15 minutes answering questions. Throughout the duration of this presentation, we will be monitoring the chat feature and answering questions as they're being asked. Some of your questions may be saved until the end for Dr. C and Jill to answer. And if you could now please take a few seconds to locate the chat feature and answer the question you see on your screen, as we would love to learn a little bit more about you. I will give you a minute to do so now. As those chats are coming in, I also wanted to let you know that we will be sharing a recording of this presentation following the webinar. And at this point, I'll turn it over to Dr. C and Jill.
Hey all, thanks for joining us on a warm, for what it's worth, evening out in Manhattan, Kansas. It reached 70 degrees today, so this southern boy is loving it. Appreciate you all visiting with us late at night. I know all of you all are busy folks, and appreciate the time that you're spending to investigate our program. So what I'm going to do is a little bit of an overview of sort of how we view financial planning, sort of its space in the marketplace, what we do for clients. And then we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about our specific degree programs. And all throughout, if you have questions, please put them in the chat. We would be glad to answer them. When I talk about financial planning, one of the places I often like to start is think about, if you could design the perfect profession, what would the characteristics of it be? And what we often hear is, it'd be great to have a profession that could help people and impact the community. everybody likes to be able to go home at night and say, I really made an impact in a person's life. And then, it would be really great if I could have that opportunity where I'm really focused on helping people, and kind of be nice if I was helping myself too, right? Where you could have a high income, take care of your family while you're providing that impact to the community. And oh my gosh, if you could have that, wouldn't it be awesome if you had high flexibility? I myself, I now have a 4.5-year-old and a 1-year-old, and we're about to start the T-ball and soccer and all that stuff. And flexibility is so important. So this per profession, you're helping people, you have that high income, you have flexibility. And the way you think about that, geez, if there's all those characteristics in this profession, there must not be a lot of jobs, right? So it'd be awesome if there was this ideal profession and there were lots of job opportunities. And what's really awesome with financial planning is really it's all of the above. We're sort of at this nexus in the marketplace where there are so many people that are seeking financial advice that haven't before, that are now in charge of making their financial decisions and in charge of their investment decisions and how they're going to take care of themselves in retirement. But there's simply just not enough financial advisors out there. And those that are tend to be 55, 60 and above, and they're nearing retirement. And there's going to be a pretty massive turnover in the workforce. So given now I've said, okay, financial planning is like the super perfect profession, what does it actually mean? And so I'm a professor, you're looking about going back to school, so I get to start you off with a nice little definition here. And I think this definition is really pertinent. So this is the definition of financial planning, and it is a collaborative process that helps maximize a client's potential for meeting life goals through financial advice that integrates relevant elements of a client's personal and financial circumstances. A couple of things that I want to talk you through there, because I do think this is a pretty powerful definition. So the first is a collaborative process. And what's great about financial planning is it's all about a dialogue between you and the client. If you and an advisor think you know what's right and you're dictating down from a podium, the client's probably not going to listen and probably not going to implement a recommendation. So a collaborative process, and this is my favorite part, maximizes a client's potential for meeting life goals. Okay, when we think about financial planning, we think of money really as a means as opposed to an end. And it's all about understanding what that client's end is. What is the life goal that matters to them? If they, look out into the future, what is it that'll make them happy or make them feel safe? And so it's really all about those conversations with a client to understand those life goals. And then here's the next step, through financial advice that integrates relevant elements of a client's personal and financial circumstances. So what you do is you have this conversation, you say, hey, where is it that you want to be? Okay, well, let's design a process to do that. And we're going to help build that financial advice to lead you through that. And we're going to be the partner. This isn't a one-time interaction. We're going to be the partner with you as you go through life and move forward to that. What's really important here is finances matter, but personal circumstances are also overriding when it comes to financial goals and what's the correct financial advice for a client. So what we always say is financial planning is for folks that have a head for business, but a heart for people, and are really willing to listen to those people to understand what those goals are. So another way that I often conceptualize it is really when you're doing a financial plan, you're trying to put together a jigsaw puzzle, and the clients are helping shape what that picture should look like, and you're helping them find those puzzle pieces to weave that together. And what's really interesting in financial planning, of course, is that you do that, but 3 years later, something's going to change. And 3 years later, something's going to change, which is why it's called planning. It's not called financial plan. And so it's through that constant dialogue and conversation that you're really able to do that. Another thing that I sometimes say is financial planning is really about lifestyle design. It's helping people understand what their priorities are, and then helping them align both their time and money with whatever it is that's important to them. What's really interesting is I talk to advisors all the time, and the most common question that they get is, am I going to be okay? It's not, how do I earn X more on my investment returns? Although, of course, investment planning is a critical component of financial planning. It's, am I going to be okay? What do I do to make sure my family's okay? What do I make sure that I can retire and provide that peace of mind? And sort of the last little way that I think about it is really what financial planning does is provides clients the organization and the confidence to move forward on their financial plan, and then the accountability to follow through on that. And that can be a matter of, hey, we've been talking to you for 6 months to go talk to your estate planning or get an estate plan. You haven't done it. When are you going to do it? How do we set that up? If you want us to make the appointment for you, or it has to do with what was it, February or March of 2020 when the stock market dropped, whatever it was, 15, 20, 30% in a month. A lot of clients wanted to bail out, and then you saw the market correct basically instantaneously, and was on a tear up until about 2 months ago. The clients that sold out when they had that panic are going to be in much different scenarios than those that were able to hold the line. And the conversation is all about on the front end, what's your investment philosophy, what's your time horizon, and how do we get there? So when that panic moment happens, you frame for the client how to deal with that, and then you hold them accountable to those scenarios. For me, my time horizon is 30 years, so it kind of is irrelevant what it's doing on a day-to-day basis. Of course, I'm able to rationalize that, but I sure still got scared for that month and a half when the market went down. In terms of the landscape for financial planning jobs, I'm just going to talk about this really briefly at a high level. If you have in-depth questions about different job opportunities, I'm glad to connect as you go through and get ready for jobs. Realistically, there are jobs all over the place, and the skill set that you bring can help determine the right path for you. So financial planning, financial services really started on the upper left quadrant. These are sort of your older type companies, and financial planning really started out in life insurance and really in sales. And financial planning was really sort of a way to create a plan to say why your product was going to be good. While now financial planning is often used to determine where a client wants to go, and you choose the products or recommendation that align with that. But as you move to the top left, this may be sort of the prototypical, you're going to be a financial advisor. Maybe you're going to go out and you're going to start your own firm. You're going to start your own book. These are more high risk, generally speaking, although there are more career paths now, but high risk, high reward. You can make a lot of money, but you have to drive your own book. So oftentimes they are name recognition. You know, I will never forget Northwestern Mutual. I watched football, and I always had that column come down with a squirrely thing around it, Northwestern Mutual, saying we'll be your footprint. And in that world, you have that name recognition, but generally speaking, you're driving to create your own. On the right is where most of the growth is, and that's in the RIA space. You're seeing a lot more accounting firms get into wealth management, as well as the top right with the franchisees, independent broker dealers. When you get to this area, generally speaking, you are starting to see more defined career paths, where oftentimes they're valuing you initially for your technical expertise, being able to sit for the CFP exam, and over time you will grow into client development sort of perspective. These tend to be more salary based as opposed to maybe more commission or incentive based. Typically speaking, they're smaller firms, although we're starting to see the growth of some pretty large national RIAs, but huge growth in these sectors. And then at the bottom is sort of, there's a revolution going on. That's with discount brokerages. So that could be a Vanguard of the world. That could be a robo advisor. And just so you know, robo advisors aren't truly robo. Robo advisors now pretty much all integrate human advice at some level, at some scale, depending on the client. And then banks, credit unions, trust companies. Over the last 6 months, I've had more conversations with banks and trust departments that realize if they don't start delivering planning services, they're not going to keep the clients that are demanding sort of this more in-depth service. So there's jobs all over, small firm, large firm. There's opportunities to go, if that's your personality and background, to go create your own business. There's opportunities all over the country to find a place to hook on to. I know, and Jill, who will talk in a little bit, I think she gets annoyed at me at all the job descriptions I send to her, because we simply can't place all of our students, and that's both locally and nationally. And so we are always glad for students in the program to help make connections through that. This is the career path that we're starting to see a little bit more. And this may relate more directly to somebody directly out of college, but I think is helpful in understanding where things are headed. So the first track that's growing would be this paraplanner track, or support advisor, something like that. And usually that paraplanner is valued immediately for their competency, their technical skills. Their job is to clear the plate of the folks above them. It's to develop the financial plans, to learn how to use the financial planning software, to handle some of the day-to-day stuff that clients need. And usually you're seeing people stick in that paraplanner role over 3 to 5 years until they'll move up to a financial planner role, where generally speaking, you get to more business management. So you may at some point in this role have some sales responsibility, as in finding clients and bringing them on board. But mostly your role is the existing clients of the firm. It's going to be caretaking them, being their point person, and providing that service. You're probably going to start having your own clients, and that's sort of the next step. Then the next step would be a senior advisor, and usually when you get to this role, you are more in a business development type role. Your job is to bring new clients to the firm, and depending on where you are, that's very different things. I talk to firms that go out and do a lot of client prospecting. I talk to firms that don't do any marketing. It's all client referrals, and they have more business than they know what to do with. You have all sorts of opportunities depending on the firm, where that sales role can be different. And then usually at the top of the heap is the partner. The partner is usually more in business execution, business management than necessarily providing advice to clients anymore. So that's what we're starting to see, is a growing trajectory of entry points into financial planning. But to be clear, depending on where you sit in your skill set, you could insert at various different points. And then here's some data. It's getting a little bit old. It's from 2017, but I think is contextually relevant to understand where salaries go. So this is national average. So depending on if you're high or low cost of living place, but a paraplanner or support advisor of those surveyed, average experience was 4 years. Average total compensation was 65%. And you can see the typical job duties there are more related to data gathering and creating the financial plan itself. And very little of that compensation is related to sort of incentives. The next step is a service advisor or financial planner or something like that. And that person, average years of experience was 8, average total compensation was $94,000, a little bit more incentive-based compensation. And there you're really leading client development. Next step, this lead advisor, average years of experience is 18, average comp is 165. Significantly more of their compensation is related to incentives or bonuses. And then you're typically at that, you're bringing clients on. And then there's the practicing partner, 20 plus years, average total comp is $334,000. I'll tell a little bit of a story. This is my wife's story about how this works. So my wife went to the University of Georgia, went through the financial planning program there. And if she'd been asked to sell straight out of college, she would have failed. That wasn't her skill set. So she went to a firm where she started in a paraplanner type role. And she was in that paraplanner type role in Atlanta till her husband brought her to Manhattan, Kansas, where she did that for a couple of years, but then transitioned into probably a service advisor role. And now, let's say 10 years later in Manhattan, she's definitely in that lead advisor type role. She has significant responsibilities of acquiring new business. She's at a firm that is fee only. So new business sales doesn't actually mean selling a product. It means getting more clients to come to you and managing their assets, assets under management type model. And for her, that's natural now. The 20-year-old Katie, 21-year-old Katie would have failed in terms of selling, but over that experience, building confidence, building skill sets, she's very well equipped to do that now. So that's how that cycle works. Just so you know. So that's a little bit about the industry and the path and what we're seeing in terms of jobs and in terms of placements, things like that. So let's talk a little bit about our financial planning program. So we actually have 5 sort of, I'm going to say degrees, although 3 aren't degrees, but 5 sort of tracks. The first is the Personal Financial Planning Graduate Certificate. This is related to the core content needed for the CFP exam. So if you don't have the CFP, this likely would be your starting point, whether you do it as a certificate or as a part of the master's program. But that's what that is, the content required to sit for the CFP exam. The second is the Financial Therapy Graduate Certificate program. And when I think about financial, well, I'll talk a little bit more about that in depth, but effectively think about that's the soft side, the communication side of financial planning. The Advanced Financial Planning Graduate Certificate, this is technical content that's designed for existing CFP professionals or those that have had the CFP content. So this would be for an individual that's an existing CFP, or let's say you want to be a master's student and you just want to focus on technical content, you could do the Financial Planning Graduate Certificate and the Advanced Financial Planning Graduate Certificate. This all wraps up into a master's degree. So one of the ways to think about it is most students that earn the master's degree will earn 2 of the 3 graduate certificates. Our most common track right now is probably the PFP graduate certificate and then the Financial Therapy Graduate Certificate. That would be folks that don't have a CFP that want both the technical and the, I hate that soft word, but the communicative component. The second most popular is existing CFP professionals that are doing our Financial Therapy Graduate Certificate track and the Advanced Financial Planning Graduate Certificate track. And then our third route would be those that do the core financial planning and just want to dive right more into technical content with that Advanced Financial Planning Graduate Certificate. We also have a doctoral degree in personal financial planning. Just throwing that out into the cosmos. We won't focus on that now. We will have webinars in the fall where we'll talk about that. But that has an application deadline in December. So we're a little out of sequence to talk about that a lot now. So related to the financial therapy certificate, we really focus, talk about this in terms of client-centered training that helps you better serve your clients. So client-centered training, it's really trying to put you in tune with what your client's telling you, where they're coming from, what shaped their perceptions about money, what's shaping their money decisions. And it's to provide insight into a client's psyche and their individual perspective on money. You know, one of the things you learn is there's actually a lot of right answers from a technical perspective, but the actual right answer requires you to integrate and understand where a client is coming from. I had a conversation with an advisor about 3 months ago where he had this really good plan. There was this client that was going to face an estate tax bill. So he was trying to avoid a bunch of taxes and have them set up a trust and shift money into it. And he kept getting this resistance until at some point in time, the client yelled at him and said, I don't want to get rid of my money. I'm afraid I'm going to run out. And he realized, oh, I'm focused on saving what could be millions of dollars in taxes for this client. And the client says, I'm just afraid of running out of money. And there's two takeaways from that. One, he got disconnected from his client. And two, if that is the right thing to do, he has to approach that recommendation from a far different sort of perspective. We do try to be an applied program. So we do provide practical insights and techniques to drive clients to action that align with their goals. I always think of this as sort of a mix of financial planning, psychology, and then marriage and family therapy. We always have a marriage and family therapist and staff, which helps with a lot of that content. And I feel like they're always reading my mind, but that's okay. That's okay. I'm used to it at this point. The second is this advanced financial planning certificate. And so this is really targeted technical content to better evaluate and determine client recommendations. So this is advanced content. This is an advanced estate planning class, an advanced retirement planning class, an advanced tax planning class, and then a practice management class. So this builds upon the CFP content to provide practical insight into more complex client scenarios. So once again, we do try to make this applied but more specialized case scenarios as opposed to the general stuff for the CFP content, which in full transparency, usually you're just trying to get through the content that's required for the exam, that you're not able to really get to those scenarios or specialized areas where you can see how it will be implemented in different perspectives. So this allows a little bit more space to think about those things at a higher level. I did speed by it, but I'll just speak about it a little bit. So for the personal financial planning graduate certificate, for any of you that's looking to get eligible for the CFP exam, that's 6 classes. That would be insurance planning, estate planning, retirement planning, tax planning, investment planning, and then a capstone class where you put a full comprehensive plan together. So with all the talking that I've done, I'm going to let Jill take over and say why KState.
Great, thanks, Martin. So one of the reasons why I love working in the personal financial planning department is the connections that I have had personally as an advisor with our faculty, and I've seen our students get the same kind of connections, and the class sizes allow the faculty to get to know the students, and that happens at the undergraduate and graduate levels. And so you get those connections, but you also have faculty who are also well-known within the profession, who are doing research or doing publications and things like that. They're on the cutting edge of what's out there because we are one of the top programs in the country. So you have committed faculty who are there to help you get through the classes, answer questions, be there for support. You also get student support. I was thrilled to see a former advisee of mine attending this, and also a few of the students that I've been communicating with, or potential students that I've been communicating with via email, who are on this webinar as well. And you all will know that that I like to get to know you, that as an advisor, that you'll get that support all throughout the program. We'll talk about the different classes, talk about what fits your schedule. If life happens and you need to step back and not take as many classes in one semester, that's what we're here for. So we are here from you from before you even start all the way through the end and then beyond. So students move through the program in a cohort. That's true no matter when you start. There students start at different times during the year, and there are students, more than one student starting at different times during the year. And a lot of you will, depending upon what your tracks are, whether it's the advanced planner track or the financial therapy track, you'll be having the same people in the same classes, and then you develop those relationships and you're like, let's study on this together. Also, they're 8-week courses, so they're intense. And they're 100% asynchronous as well. That's also a question that I often get. But you do have optional live Zoom sessions once a week. My understanding is that, that the professors tend to offer those during non-traditional work hours to really understand that the majority of our students are working professionals. And so they want to offer that flexibility. But certainly if you're not able to make those, reaching out to your instructor, that's totally fine. The programs meet the educational requirements to sit for the CFP exam, as Martin just said, in particular, the PFP graduate certificate. And then also KState is an educational partner with AFCPE, which handles more of the financial education, financial counseling side of things. And so, so you have the financial therapy part that's more related to that side of things as well. You want me to continue on? Okay, so yes, I will. So the master's in personal financial planning, there are 3 tracks and you'll pick 2 to complete the degree. I actually kind of said a little bit of this already, but there's 30 credit hours, 10 courses, all of the coursework is online, 100% asynchronous. So again, the graduate certificate for the PFP, that's the CFP coursework, that's 18 credits, 6 classes. It's a standalone certificate. The courses are insurance, retirement, investments, tax, estate planning, and case studies. And then we've got the financial therapy graduate certificate, and that's licensed through the Financial Therapy Association. That also is a standalone certificate. That's 4 classes. There is a prerequisite depending upon whether or not you have experience or familiarity with personal finance, if you've ever taken a class in it, that sort of thing. We want to make sure that you're well prepared to understand those core concepts. The classes that you would take, the 4 classes are Intro to Financial Therapy, Money and Relationships, Applied Behavioral Finance, and Financial Therapy Theory and Research. Martin, I kind of took over. Is there anything else you want to say to that? Perfect. All right. Yeah, you moved me on to the next slide. So also the advanced planner track. So as Martin already said, it's designed for the existing CFP professional. Again, a standalone certificate, and the 4 courses, which he talked about already: advanced estate planning, advanced retirement, advanced tax, and practice management. Now, there are 2 tracks that are only 4 courses each, and you need to have a total of 10 classes. So you'll be 2 classes short. So you have some electives that you can choose from, and those include Foundations of Leadership, Conflict Resolution, Financial Counseling, Investments 2, if you want to go more in depth, in case studies as well, and certainly a research class as well could be fit in. It really can tailor those electives based on what you're interested in, and also based on timing when you want to finish the degree itself.
Thanks, Jill. And I will take this, since I threw you under the bus to continue before, although Jill will round me out as she always does. So you understand costs. Current tuition and fees is around $2,200. I think it's actually a little bit cheaper than that for a 3 credit graduate level course. So if you take all 10 courses, that's about a $22,000 cost. There are books for all of the CFP content, most of the advanced planner content. Some of the financial therapy classes don't have books, but books are a cost to think of. We do not have a lot of local scholarships to offer, but there are a number of scholarships nationally. The CFP board in particular has a lot of scholarships that are available that you can explore if you would just Google CFP board scholarships. A couple of other things. Jill, who's here, is really sort of your guide through the process. So if you have questions about the application, questions about transferring courses in, questions about anything, setting up time to meet with her is exactly the right thing to do, and she can talk you through that. I'm your guy if you want to talk about the profession or the careers or anything like that, and I'm glad to set up a time to meet and talk with you about that. Jill also serves as the academic advisor for the program. We likely will have we're seeking another person right now, and so we will have somebody else that will take over. But I can tell you, if once you enter the program, Jill would send you, or whoever this new person is, literally the course sequence that you have to take to go through. And I think Jill already hit it, that we are quite used to working with folks that life happens and they need to take some time off. And we keep really good conversations going with students as that happens. For the master's programs, we do not require the GRE or GMAT. I know there is some question required related to the PhD program. We do require that for the PhD program. We don't care. I see that's a question there. We don't care which one it is, but we do require that be taken. And then you can find out more about us, those are emails if you want to explore more. So with that, Jill, anything else, or should I start reading off the chat questions? Jill gave me a thumbs up. Great. So there is one question about if classes from Certificate in Personal Financial Planning go into an MBA at K-State. Currently, no, but also stay tuned. We're currently looking at creating a dual degree program. If you want to reach out and connect with me or Jill, we can sort of help you understand that timeline. Currently, no, but stay tuned within that. Sarah asks, for the doctoral program, is it possible to complete it by taking one class at a time each 8 weeks? If so, is that considered half-time status? So one of the things to know, all the master's level courses are 8 weeks. And so if you're considering the master's path, effectively think you would take one course 8 weeks pretty much throughout the year with a 1 to 2 week gap in between. So it is pretty consistent during that time. Sarah, the doctoral classes themselves are full semester classes. They are not 8 week classes. We do, generally speaking, in the PhD program, just require one class at a time. Sarah, what I'll do is make sure we get through all the master's questions. And if there's no more, I'm glad to speak even more about the PhD program. Jill.
And Martin, I just wanted to point out that at the graduate level, full-time is actually 9 credits instead of the undergraduate level being 12 credits.
Thank you. Gabe, that is correct. So if you were just taking the CFP content, it would be 2,200 times 6, which is 13,200. That is correct. John asks, would a master's program be a stepping stone for someone interested in possibly pursuing the doctoral program in financial planning one day? So I can talk to you about it from a K-State perspective. So so our PhD program at K-State is 90 credit hours, but if you have a master's degree, you can transfer in 30. You can potentially transfer in 30, let me say it that way. If you have a master's degree in financial planning, then you could fully transfer that in. We also really give weight to an individual. You could have an MBA, but you have a CFP, or it could be any sort of graduate degree, but you have the CFP. We're likely going to be able to transfer in 30 credit hours within that. One thing, and I won't go too much into depth here, but the master's program is content. It's how to be a better planner. The PhD program is really not about being a better planner. It's about understanding, although there are some benefits, but it's about research, informing how planners operate. It's about economic, it's about theory, methods, and statistics. So it's really a different type of degree program. But John, we do regularly have students that will do the master's and then and then do the PhD program. It's not a familiarity, of course, helps in applications and things like that, but I wouldn't view it necessarily as a fast track on the way in. Jill, did I sort of say that correctly? Thanks. Joel, and Jill, I'll let you take first stab at this. Joel asks, when you say standalone certificate, such as a financial therapy graduate, do you need a CFP cert first to get that?
No, you do not. So say you had my undergraduate major, which is psychology, and you wanted to do the financial therapy graduate certificate. It doesn't involve applying to the master's program, which is what we mean by standalone certificate. You can just get the certificate itself. Now, I did not take a personal finance class as an undergraduate in my time there. So it would probably be recommended to me that I take Intro to Personal Financial Planning first, so that I have a background in the personal finance topics, just a general overview of, retirement investments and estate insurance, that sort of stuff that I may not have learned, throughout my life. And then I would start the financial therapy graduate certificate. So for that, it might be 5 classes. But again, you can actually finish that within 2 semesters, up to 3 semesters, depending upon timing and things like that. So no, you do not need to have a CFP certificate or be designated as a CFP professional before getting the financial therapy graduate certificate. Now, the advanced planner certificate, yes, of course, you would want to either do probably the master's and do the CFP graduate certificate, the CFP core coursework, and then layer the advanced planner onto that. Or you would already need to have your CFP designation to be able to take the advanced planner graduate certificate coursework.
Perfect, Jill. I think you absolutely nailed that. Sammy asked, if you're just wanting one of those certificates, do you still have to apply through the grad application?
Yes, you do.
Yes, and one of the things we say, and I will let Jill correct me, Sammy, so the application process is different for the master's degree than the grad certificates. And as a master's student, you can earn the grad certificates. As a grad certificate student, you actually have to reapply if you decide you want to be a master's student. So one of the things to have a conversation with Jill around is if you just want to be a certificate student, absolutely just go to the certificate path. If you're not really sure, it may be smarter to just apply as a master's student. So you only have to go through the application process once and potentially pay the fee once. And then if you just decide to finish after that grad certificate, that's okay too. Jill, did I get that correct?
You did. And the other thing about the graduate certificates versus the master's degree qualifies you for the limited financial aid in the form of usually unsubsidized loans. As a certificate seeking student, you would not be eligible for those. And also, Sammy, if you were not really sure and you had not taken a personal finance class, then you could certainly apply as a non-degree seeking student and take, up to 9 credits, but 1 class and kind of see if you like it or not, and then decide to apply either for the grad certificate or the master's degree. But I agree with Martin. If you're not really sure, I would kind of kill 2 birds with 1 stone and just apply once, so that you only have to ask references once and get transcripts once and pay the application fee once, and be able to just get through in that way. And then again, there's no penalty for you not finishing your master's degree. You just stop and earn your certificate after that.
Chad's question is actually not one that I've answered for a master's student before, so hopefully we'll have the correct answer here. Is there a required completion time for courses, and how much time is allowed to complete coursework? I'll answer it from a different route and then come back to it. So Chad, courses are offered in a sequence. So if you do take time off, that's absolutely fine. We would have to figure out how to get you back into that proper course sequence. And so there could be some delay associated with that. The grad school does have a policy at some point that coursework isn't valid. I think it's 5 years, but I would welcome if Jill, Diane, or Brittany knows that actual answer.
Sure, yeah, I just want to add that students have up to 6 years to complete either the master's degree or the graduate certificate program.
Perfect. So Chad, Diane nailed it much quicker than me. So 6 years after entry to completion. So Sarah, I think that's a doctoral program question. No, we do require a currently valid GMAT or GRE score, and I think according to their standards, it's 5 years that is applicable related to the GMAT or the GRE.
I feel you, Sarah.
Yeah.
We were talking a little bit before this started, and how successful would we be on a GRE/GMAT all of these years after we finished our degrees? So I hear you on that, especially when it's close to the 5 years, but it's not quite there. It is just it's a graduate school requirement. It's a requirement for us as well. Just that it's within the 5 years.
Yeah, Sarah, a little painful. I had a really good GRE score, 15 years ago at this point in time. So Sarah, I think your last question is related to PACE. So for the PhD program, you basically required, if you want to stay on track, to take one class each semester that goes along with a core sequence. And then there are semesters where you could or should take more as you fill out sort of the periphery stuff. But that's something that we could talk to you about. But the majority of PhD students are either taking one or two classes a semester, and they have some opportunity to fill that in as they go. And Sarah, once again, glad to follow up individually on that, and we will do one of these closer to time on the PhD as well. Jill, when can students start the program?
Well, they can start, and we have some questions just so you know in the Q&A. We can start for the graduate certificates and the master's program. We have a rolling admission, so you can start pretty much year round. Again, because those are 8-week courses. Even if you were interested now and you were like, yep, I want to start in the second 8 weeks, our classes would start March 21st. And so you would be able to get your application in, processed, and things like that. That's actually specifically why we held the webinar on this date, so that you would have enough time if you wanted to start in the second 8 weeks of the spring semester. Otherwise, you could start in the summer. The class starts at the end of May, beginning of June. You can start in August. Class starts in mid-August. So there's lots of times to be able to come in when it makes the most sense for you. And if there's one thing I love doing, it's creating graduation plans. So if you have 3 scenarios and maybe you've got you're expecting a child or things like that, how do you kind of time that? We could certainly have that conversation in a Zoom meeting.
Thanks, Jill. So yeah, question and answer. That's a good place to put questions, and I guess now we can answer them there. So and Diane has started to answer this, but I'll round out. So we do require 3 references, and Diane's absolutely right. 3 academic and or professional references. Some of you may be in different stages of life, so you may not have a professor that you went to or anything like that. I think what's really important here is we do want people that can speak to your background and work ethic. But you also need people that'll actually respond. Long story short, like the application can't move forward until you get 3 responses in. So don't overthink yourself and try to get the exact perfect person that's not actually going to fill that out and get it in a timely manner. So choose 3 people that you think can speak to you. We're not particularly particular to have poor control of the English language, but we do want people that will actually fill that. Carly asks if you do the CFP classes, can you decide to come back at a later date? So Carly, this often happens that a student will start as a CFP certificate student and will actually decide to do the master's student. There are really 2 issues there, and Diane has hit one of them. If you decide you want to do the master's program, you do have to apply to the master's program, and that would be another application process. So if you're not really sure, once again, our default would be apply to the master's, and then if you finish with the CFP, you'd be done with it. there is that a time horizon for coursework to count. So it is, if you're gone too long, that coursework would necessarily be able to apply to a master's degree if there's a large gap. And that's tied to that 6 years that Diane looked at. What's typical course flow look like? A lot of that depends on the classes. I'll start out, and Jill, please round out. So for the most part, our classes are structured in a way where we've tried to flip the classroom. So you're going to have 2 to 4 sort of recorded lectures that are where we're doing the teaching content, and you'll have a live webinar that's optional, but we highly encourage that you attend. That's more reinforcement, discussion based, question and answer examples type thing. So that's generally the structure of our master's classes. The workload probably is going to be 8 to 10 hours a week realistically. Some classes will be a little bit more, some classes will be a little bit less. You know, the capstone class is a lot to do in 8 weeks, so you will work your tail off. And some of that's also going to depend sort of your background and comfort level, but 8 to 10 hours a week is what I would plan for that, and try, if at all possible, life happens, but if at all possible, to be present for those live classes. Jill, any other advice you'd give on that? Okay. Ruth, scholarships for those seeking certificates only. Most of the scholarships out there are 4-degree students, but there are some out there. Once again, I would check the CFP board website, and that would be your best track. And the last question is about, although I see one in the chat now, the start date for the course sequence. Long story short, you can really start any 8 weeks. So you could start in March, you could start over the summer. A little bit of that depends on which sequence you're talking about, though. There are times when it's better to start the CFP content, but for the financial therapy and the advanced planner track, those are a lot more flexible. If you're going to get a master's degree, what we really do is maybe start you out with financial therapy content and then get you on the right course sequence for the CFP content. It's still possible to start with the CFP content in the second 8 weeks. It just may be a little bit more challenging in terms of hitting mid-stride, but that's absolutely possible. But yes, so you could start mid-March if you wanted to. In any of the sequences there. Jill, is that about right? She's nodding yes. Okay, and then John, this is a good question. Is it common for master's students interested in continuing in the doctoral program to take PFP 808 research applications elective as a precursor to the doctoral thesis research paper? What kind of assistance might faculty provide in pursuing research topics? So this is actually a great question. I shouldn't say actually, this is a great question. There are the elective courses, and one of those is research application, or what's called a research cluster. And this would really be intentional exposure to research. We've had a lot of practitioners that have come through the master's program and have gotten research published. And really, if you're a master's student in that, you're going to do a little bit of grunt work, but also we're hoping to get some of your practitioner expertise out of it to help drive the research questions. Then rely on the PhD student or the faculty that's there to do more of the statistics. But John, that is actually a great demo to really determine, do you want to be a PhD student? Do you want to think in that world? And that would be a great opportunity for you to understand what it's about, but also us to understand, for us to understand what you're interested in and your commitment level to that sort of plan, because the PhD program is pretty competitive. Sarah, no, the PhD program is a cohort system. We have selected our cohort. It's going to start in August. So I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but your cycle is 16 months at this point in time for that. Payment plan or deadlines, I think Diane is following up on chat with that. I don't know that information. Any other questions, y'all? Jill, are there any other common questions that you're seeing or things that are on your mind as you're talking with students? That we've been pretty comprehensive here, but anything that's on your mind?
I think what sets our program apart is that personal touch that you get throughout the program. I met with a student who's starting our master's degree in August, so in the fall. So I already met with them via Zoom and just chatting, finding out, their story. I like to kind of know more about them and then kind of understand what their career goals are, and then they make sure we're a good fit for them, and we understand kind of what their goals are so we can make sure that they're a good fit for us. And the student afterwards sent me an email and said, it was so nice to have like that. I didn't expect that I would be able to actually get to talk to somebody. And like, yes, because that's what I do, and that's what we do, whether it's sending an email to Dr. C and he sets up a time, to chat with you, or to Dr. Megan McCoy, or to Dr. Heckman for the PhD program. You've got someone to be able to connect with. That's always been really important in our department. And so that's just something that tends to stick with me. And then again, the reason why I like meeting with students kind of early on is to craft that graduation plan, to look at the sequence, to determine, when you would want to start, how do you kind of get ramped up and, start putting your brain back in the mode of a student if you have been out of school for a little while and things like that. So again, it's all highly individualized as far as like what you're looking for, your goals, the time you want to take to get there, and all that sort of stuff.
Thanks, Jill. And yeah, I would say we pride ourselves on the personal touch. Most faculty will have calendar links in their emails, and it's not uncommon for me to look at my schedule for the day and not know exactly what I'm meeting with students about, but excited to meet with students who have a question or whatever they want to talk about. And that's something we, once again, really enjoy those connections. There is a really wide network of alumni as well. So really, no matter where you are in the country, we're going to be able to connect you. Well, I will say I saw, and one of our participants is from Athens, Georgia, man, all my Georgia stuff is now at home. But go Dogs as a double dog. We have lots of connections there in Athens as well. But I think that's it. Unless there's any other questions, we really appreciate your time tonight. Please follow up. Glad to answer any questions as you go through. And Jill, I think you see what Lenora wants to follow up with you.
Yes. So you have my email, well, a general email address, but pfp@ksu.edu. Send me an email. Say I was in last night's webinar or tonight's webinar, depending upon when you send it. And I was wondering if we could, set up a time to chat, because I'm interested in, and then kind of put in the reminder. Yeah, that's it. So just reach out there, and then I'll be in touch very quickly with you so we can set that up.
Perfect. With that, Diane, do you want to close this out?
Yes, I want to thank Dr. C and Jill for that wonderful presentation, and I want to thank everyone for joining us here tonight. If you are ready to apply, please visit our website at online.ksu.edu and select how to apply for detailed instructions. As a reminder, everyone who has registered for this webinar will be receiving a recording via email as soon as it's available. If you have any additional questions that we didn't cover tonight, please don't hesitate to reach out. Finally, we also want to be sure to let everyone know that we do have application fee waivers available for those applying to the master's degree. So feel free to reach out to us at online@ksu.edu when you are ready to apply, and we would be happy to provide you with that code. And thanks again, and I hope you all have a great night.